All right, so this car right here has a dead cylinder. A compression test was performed along with the way this thing sounds. It's running on 3 cylinders right now at the moment. I believe it was good compression across 3 of them, and then 1 of them was really low. So the thoughts of getting a rebuild engine were there, but we were able to find a nice low mileage engine to replace this. It's here. I'm busy working on that in a separate video, getting it all assembled and ready to go. But right now, we're going to start working on getting the engine pulled out right here and now. There's not many things that are going to be switched over for that video. So, with that being said, I'm going to get some of these fancy, I think this is the best heat shield you can get for one of these. Look at how pretty that thing is. I have one on my my NSRT4, but it's blue. I forget who makes those. They are super nice. So I'm going to get all the fluids drained. I'm going to start working on getting stuff off of here. We're going to get the battery, the cold air kit, this stuff placed inside. We're going to drain the trans fluid, the engine, and the coolant. That way all of our fluids are drained, and then we're just going to start working on getting everything off of this so that we can get the engine out. All right, well, next day, we're busy picking at getting everything apart to pull this engine out. Everything come out pretty good. You can tell it definitely had some low compression. It's really easy to spin over when we're doing the clutch bolts. Got everything disconnected. Axles are pulled out. We've got to drop them out of the trans. Working on draining our coolant right now. Got the exhaust off. Our engine is prepped and ready to go. If you watch the other video, you'll see that. Nice clean coolant. Got a couple things here yet to get out of the way. Once the coolant gets done draining, we'll get our shifter cables. I don't even mess with those obsolete clips anymore. I pop here, and then there's an 18 down there. I'll get them, and then we'll get our heater core hoses out of the way once this is done draining. We're almost to the point where we can power steering unit, and then AC, and then I'm going to pull the ECM, and we'll get the radiator and condenser and stuff out of the way so we don't damage none of that. Just makes it so much easier. And we're going to run a chain over this and pull this whole thing out and have it sitting on the floor in about another hour here yet. And we got a couple things we got to swap over to the other motor, and hopefully we'll have it at least bolted down in with the new mounts on the trans side and the engine side and the center mount, and then I'll work on hooking everything else up. All right. Engine is out. Basically what we're doing is just WD-40 and wiping off all the oil and the grease and stuff. We're going to clean down this side here a little bit. We're not going to get super picky, but we're in here, so I figured we would kind of clean some of it. I normally do that with every time I'm in here, clean stuff out the best I can, and go with it. The engine's out. It's on the floor. We're busy working on getting everything else cleaned up to get onto the other engine. So we're getting there. I mean, everything came out nice. We got some of these brackets off of here cleaned up. We're gonna get everything installed again. All right, so we're back on getting the engine installed. We got some of our stuff cleaned up. The engine is ready. So right now we're at the point where we're gonna bolt this up. We gotta clean some of these leaves off, but we're gonna get the trans bolted up. We're gonna get this thing hanging. We're gonna get it down in this engine bay. I don't know if I noted, we got a really nice AGP center mount. They are to go to. That's actually an AGP big wheel stock too. All right, so we're gonna slide this thing together, get a couple bolts started. They actually don't go too bad. You gotta lift up on it a little bit. I have some of these fancy alignment tools here. I kind of like push in here and get lined up with it.
I was just looking for the bolts. So.
All right, well, all bolts are here.
All the bolts are okay. I knew I had.
So we'll just grab an 18 and then we'll get that pushed together. And I'll see you guys when we're hanging. All right, so I know in the last segment you just seen me saying we'll see you when we got the engine off the hook, or it's hanging and it's installed. Well, Christmas was coming. We ended up having to wait on some parts. I'll show you what they are here in a second for this blue car. But the engine was in, and I needed to throw the intake on real quick to be able to pull this thing out because I had some other stuff I had to take care of while we were waiting on the parts. So now we're actually another week in. All right. So everything is in. I'm getting ready to get this thing back up on the quick jack. We have a brand new radiator to install. This one, I've already got everything switched. This is still the stock rad. These plastic tanks, see how it's darker here? I don't know if it's sun or the fact that the heat gets to this top, but it actually starts to discolor this. It gets lighter in color, and I've seen these actually crack and start leaking through the tanks. The overall radiator, I mean, you know, we're talking an old radiator, 20 years old. That's an OEM rad. So, I've had good luck with these. Just a replacement rad. They're anywhere from 50 to 80 bucks depending on where you get them. They seem to all work well with no issues. And that's ready to go in. We're waiting on this valve cover here to get powder coated. It's like a wrinkle black. So we're gonna have to get this swapped onto the engine. All right. Actually came out pretty nice. Didn't really look at it too much. I'm starting to unpack it. Very nice. Look, I mean, whoever did it, they taped everything off correctly. I'm not going to be spending time re-cleaning down in here. Our end here for our hose is nice. I'm not having to worry about re-tapping any of this. This might be a little tight here for the PVC valve. I'll see how that goes though. We might have to sand that, and then hopefully our oil cap goes down in there, but it looks like everything stayed out of the threads. But that's plastic, so it'll be a little tight, but it'll go in. So here we are. Everything is pretty much together. I just kind of set that on because we're going to be taking it off. There is a bunch more stuff to put on. I'm going to try to clean up some of the wiring down here in this lower area, but right now I'm going to get this thing up. We're going to pull the intake off, get everything together. We're going to do a good walk around on this to finish out this and just show you everything that with this car. Like I said, everything worked good. I started this thing, but I didn't let it run long. But hey, I didn't see anything on the floor. We'll know more, obviously, because I did pull it in here when we get it up. And we're just going to finish this thing. We're going to get it started. We're going to bring it up to temp like we do any other time. Get all of our coolant in, double check all our fluids. Run this thing through the gear up on the lift. Just give it a good once over and a little quick putt back and forth the road. And, you know, hopefully it'll be good from there. We're going to have to charge our air conditioning. All right, it's a little warmer in here from the heat running. But this is what the valve cover looks like. I cleaned up all the bolts. I actually put an extra one that wasn't for the top or wasn't studded here in the front just to add a little bit better look. The radiator is now installed. Everything is going in pretty good. All the AC lines are hooked up here now. Zip tied our power steering line back. I've got this line here is attached. Everything is where it needs to be. Maybe just bend this just a little bit more because they always get tweaked. I'm busy getting the overflow bottle installed. Then we're going to get the coil and everything. This would look good with an AGP wastegate. Just saying. But it's not really needed. Could upgrade our heat shield like I did on one of the other cars if we spent a couple bucks there. But like right now, we're just trying to get everything together. And it's a budget, so everything's got to get done. All right. Now, once we get that in, I'll probably finish detailing stuff. I'm wiping stuff down the best that I can here. We'll get the intake installed. And I'm just kind of really curious to see how this thing's going to look with the this pretty sweet coil pack shield that's here on top of this black. See if we can get this wire laid out of the way a little bit. There we go. Man, That is just gonna fit perfect. That's gonna be nice. All right, well, I just wanted to update. You know, when you put your valve cover on, make sure that you seal your end, and then where your cam cap seams are, you're gonna wanna put silicone here and here. Drop your valve cover down. These have metal sleeves in them. If you over tighten them, you can snap them. I've done it with my Milwaukee ratchet. So I do all this stuff, tighten them, snug everything down by hand now. Like I said, whoever did the powder coating, they taped everything off really nice. The threads look gorgeous down through here. This went in good, this went in good. So we're definitely heading in the right direction with getting this thing back together. Other than, I'll have to clean up some of this. Like I said, I want to clean up some of this wire. Got to finish getting the ECM mounted. Clean up these wire ends down here. Maybe do some retaping. This stuff here is starting to crack up some, so I might just re-sleeve them with some new covers. That way everything looks top notch when this thing's back together. All right, well, I think when I get this thing ready for startup, I'll let you know. Well, the valve cover's on, our intake is on. I did take the time, I cleaned out our overflow. There was a bunch of moisture in there and some oil. They had a breather attached to route that down there, which I really don't think is going to be needed with this engine, but it is something good. That keeps the oil from getting squirted out of here and all over the place on something. This should have a check valve in between here. It's something that I should suggest that they look into. This could be routed a different way. I don't know if I have enough where I could tuck it underneath and come out just for looks. Everything here is good to go. I got to put the cowl panel seal on, but we right now are at the point where we have coolant in here and we're going to fire this thing up. It is going to kind of be a first fire because we did take some stuff apart. We got all of our vacuum lines back in place. I did put some ties in the back. I left stuff off here in the front in case I have to pull anything apart. But that's where we're at. We're going to pop our door. We're going to start this thing up. Like we are going to be burning off some stuff. I didn't remove this inner core to clean everything out, so I believe there is some oil in there. You know, everything so far looks pretty good. No spots on the floor. I think there is some still probably going to be built up in our exhaust. That's going to need to be run out. Up to 60. It dropped that fast. It's bone chilling. We're looking at an outside temperature of 32 degrees. All right, we had one little problem. So, ran this thing, it came up to temp. Oh, it's nice and warm. The heat was blowing great. The fans came on. And we ended up having I was like revving it up a little bit. Nothing too crazy. Holding about 1,500, 2,000 RPMs to get the temps to come up. And you can see here we had a code pop up. So we had crankshaft position sensor. Let's see if we can still bring up the data. Oh, nice warm air pouring out of here. So let's go down to the data stream. We're just going to view all items. So you can see it's, since I shut it off, when you shut stuff off it will build some heat, but we basically came up to like 180 and it kind of was, or 190, and was hanging there, and then it started to build a little bit better. But everything else was doing what it was supposed to do, except for once it was up to temp, I tried to like free rev it a little bit, bring it up to like 45 or 5. I don't know if it's just the crank sensor decided it wanted to go bad, or it was from me pulling it out, and I cleaned everything and I kind of sprayed off the outside because I got a little bit of paint on it. So I don't know if that's what that was, or if it was just it's time to say goodbye. So we went and pulled the one out of the original engine, so we're going to stick that in. But so far, everything seems to be looking pretty good. But this will give us an opportunity to bring this thing up to a second heat cycle. Okay, so we have the crank sensor installed. I just figured I'd show you what I did. Basically, I pulled this upper pipe here just by undoing it at this clamp, unplugged this stuff, pulled the throttle body and the spacer off, which allowed me access to the 3 bolts for the starter. Then I was able to access it on the bottom. Because it's right there, you can see the wire coming up off of it. There you go, there it is. And the bolt for that is actually on the top left of the screen there. It's kind of really hard to see. It's actually above the plug. You can kind of see it. I can't. I'm kind of seeing through the camera, through the ride support, but it's up in there. So we moved the starter out of the way, pulled it out. We got it plugged in. We're ready for our second heat cycle. So I'm gonna shut the heat off, open our doors, start this thing up, let it run, and give it a good check. Hopefully we don't have any issues with revving, or, well, you know, the crank sensor not wanting to pick up. I do have the code scanner in there, so I'm going to clear the codes. And, well, cross our fingers. But we are warm to the touch. We have the fan cycle on and off a couple times. 180. There's another good thing. Very dry floor. See how hot the heat is coming out of the vent. Well, 150 degrees. Nice and warm heat. That's for sure. Everything's revving the way that it should now. We still have a oil light, which I believe is the commonly failing oil pressure light thinger. The check engine light was on. The red solenoid plug was undone, so I was waiting till I brought this up to temp to clear it, but everything else is showing perfectly fine. So shut it off, turn this on, turn off our fan, race codes. All right, now good to go. I'm gonna run this thing through the gears. I'm gonna see what's gonna go on, if we're gonna put an oil pressure sensor light in it and go from there. So I'm gonna call this thing finished up. It's actually a pretty decent solid car. Dash top's nice. Seats are showing some age. I mean, this is a used car. It's got some dirt in it. Normal pocket change. It's got a set of those floor mats, wood floor mats, I guess, from Modern. I mean, the interior is pretty nice. The exterior of this car, I think I went over this. A tire actually came loose and bent that fender. I don't know what caused this damage, but this was, something was hit and then something was fixed, and you can tell they didn't do as great of a job as what needed to be done. Like I said, this was, they bumped into something real light here, which that's also a pretty easy fix. The best part of this is there is no rocker rust, some bent pinch rails. There's our nice MPX exhaust. It's nice to look up in here and see